Good news, obviously, is with AI coming into the mix, there's a huge opportunity. But I think there's also an important step to provide some context around what type of AI we're talking about and really differentiating generative from agentic. Generative AI obviously was first on the scene and really does have a lot of applications to improve demand. Certainly helps us as marketers, as demand leaders, rapidly analyze large sets of data, rapidly get to better suggestions about segmentation and approaches, to rapidly synthesize talking points, which can help with developing strategic plans, which can help with developing content. All of this represents a productivity boost, and that's great. But I want to position that I think the real game changer that we're seeing and that really plugs into this concept of agentic demand and building a 2.0 agentic demand engine, a native agentic demand engine, is that it's really agentic AI that is the game changer from an AI standpoint. And so let me address why. When you think about the fundamental challenges in B2B demand, in particular, these upper funnel gaps, these, higher order pain points, lack of content, lack of programs that are out there, there's definitely a lot of periods of interaction with buyers that a lot of demand programs don't cover. Second piece of that is even when we're covering it, we often have a lack of orchestration across channels, across stakeholders. We might be engaging with one stakeholder in an account, but not another one. We might be engaging in one channel one way, differently in another, and we're not tying all that together. Our content has always been one way. And by that, I mean, here's a content offer, here's information on a topic, here's product information. But it wasn't really two-way, it wasn't dialogue. We talked about this idea of siloed programs and data, and we also talked about this idea of overall process disconnects. And so when you think about these fundamental challenges, these are not fundamental challenges that generative really changes. These are fundamental challenges that agentic fundamentally changes. And that's why AI is more than just a productivity boost. It enables us in our demand engine to move to an always-on state, enables us to better orchestrate across stakeholders, across the account, across channels. It enables us to get to do two-way dialogue, enables us to start to process multiple signals from multiple. So not just form data, not just intent data, not just web activity and behavior data, but all of it in a composite view and optimizing what is the best combination that we're looking for. It enables us to connect sellers directly to prospects. And this is important. Instead of having this rickety process where you're going through all these steps, in fact, we want to think about one of the objectives of the agentic demand engine is to create seller connects, stakeholder connects, right? Bringing the two together on key accounts, either by booking a meeting, creating a direct chat line, number of different ways to do that, but not a lead that then someone else has to look at, get up to speed on, email out, call out, try to set a meeting, go through all these steps. You get the point. We can connect sellers and stakeholders more directly together. And then finally, all of this is more scalable, more rapidly deployable. That manual build, that manual process that we've been stuck with in the past to get the most out of market automation is rapidly fading to the side. The other thing I want to mention is that when we talk about agentic, we're not talking about just one agent. So you take, for example, Qualified, which is a Forrester leader in the space right now. They've noted that they're a leader in the space. The Qualified guys, their Piper brain, right? It's not just the brain for chat. And I think that's one of the things too that we've got to disconnect is that agentic in demand doesn't necessarily equal chat. There can be multiple different agentic brains and agents that are running in real time. So looking at and feeding different segments, looking at and offering differential experiences for key accounts, overseeing qualification, overseeing data cleanliness, data governance, overseeing tracking parameters, making sure things are coming in directly, dealing with ETL transformation to support your CDP. There's a lot of different elements that your agentic brains can be doing. So when you think about a demand engine that is an agentic demand engine, you want to think about it's a collection of these agents, these sub agents in different categories. And we want to disconnect that. As I said, it's not just about chat, because we want to think about like key accounts. You want to be able to make sure that if someone comes to your website and chats, they get a differentiated experience. But what if they're on your website? How do you personalize and enable them to prompt browse? What about nurture emails you're sending them? What about invites to specific events? What about follow-up SDR emails? And then also this idea of, and I think this is an important piece, the ability to open up the channel directly with your sales team over team chat. And so you think about every single one of these agents on the left could engage with multiple different engagement channels on the right. And that's why we want to think about agentic demand and agentic AI through a lens where we disconnect it from the engagement channel. Last thing I want to mention is that we're definitely seeing a moment in time where agentic AI is not a homogenous thing. You see platforms like Qualified that are native agentic, and then you see platforms like Marketo that are really rapidly working to upgrade, but actually are largely leveraging generative AI today. And so a lot of the things they're doing, there still is automation in the mix, but the steps are not agentic steps, they're generative steps. And then you look at platforms like HubSpot, which are kind of a hybrid of the two in that are heavily agentic, but also their Breeze capabilities leverage generative as well. So it's also not a homogenous thing when we talk about agentic demand platforms.